brief press conference as to the concerns in the Department of Agriculture.
Good afternoon. I have just come out of a meeting with our economic team. We have been starting to make to solidify our policies, our plans for the incoming administration. And mukha namang maayos, marami naman tayong mga opportunities na alam natin na maraming problemang hinaharap, but still I think that we have identified certain areas. The development of the economy, starting when the new term begins, will be a focused kind of effort. In that we are not so well funded that we can cover all the different areas and all the different sectors of the economy. So it will be very focused. We will be very focused. We are now finalizing where that focus will lie. From the very beginning, I have always said that agriculture is going to be a critical and foundational part of our economic development or economic transformation, is what I'm calling it as we anticipate the post-pandemic economy. And as we slowly pull out of the post-pandemic economy, hopefully that will be soon. Furthermore, it is going to be in response to the events in Ukraine, which have affected the Philippines' agriculture and including the food supply in a very serious way. We spoke at length about the measures that we will have to take, because we are forecasting that there will be a shortage, or there will be an increase in food prices in the next quarters that will come, simply because of the outside forces that have been impacting upon food supply, upon supply of feeds. We have been able in the Philippines in the last few weeks to adjust to the new situation in terms of the importations from the Ukraine and from Russia. But these emergency measures that we have taken will not be sufficient for the long run. And that's why we have to plan in a more thorough fashion than just responding. I have asked the DTI, NEDA, and of course the Department of Finance, the BBM. I have asked them all to start to make forecasts, economic forecasts on what it is we think we will have to face for the rest of this year, so that we can prepare and so that we can, despite the fact that there will be some emergency situations, hopefully not, but possibly some emergency situations, especially when it comes to food supply. We have tried to continue the fundamental development when it comes to the economy. As to agriculture, I think that the problem is severe enough that I have decided to take on the portfolio of Secretary of Agriculture, at least for now, and at least until we can reorganize the Department of Agriculture in the way that it will make it ready for the next years to come. Marami tayong mga kailangang palitan, marami tayong mga medyo naging mga iba't ibang opisina na hindi na masyadong nagagamit o kailangan ng i-retool para sa post-pandemic. Dahil nga iba na yung ating ginagawa ngayon, bumabalik tayo or going back to basics. Ilang beses nyo na sa aking narinig ito, back to basics. We're going back to basics and trying, and we will rebuild the value chain of agriculture. And that is why I thought it's important that the President take take that portfolio, so that not only to make it clear to everyone what a high priority we put on the agricultural sector, but also as a practical matter, so that things move quickly, because the events of the global economy are moving very quickly. We have to be able to be agile. We have to be able to respond properly in a measured way as soon as there is a situation that needs to be addressed. So that's essentially what we discussed, and that is my announcement for today. I will take a few questions.
Sir?
Yes, ladies first.
Sir, Marie Sumali of GMA 7. Since you are taking on the portfolio as Secretary of DA, what will be your marching orders? What will be the priorities specifically in order to secure this food crisis that we are already in?
There are many priorities that we have to attend to simultaneously. First of all, will be to try and increase production as we come into the planting period, the harvest period after the rainy season, before and after the rainy season. Hopefully, we can counteract some of the increases in prices. You may have noted that Thailand and Vietnam, for example, one of our main sources of imported rice, have decided to ban their rice exports, at least for now. So we have to compensate for that by hopefully by increasing production here in the Philippines. So that's one. The other priority, which is equally important, although it is a long-term process, is the restructuring of the Department of Agriculture. As I have mentioned many times before, many of the agencies have changed their function over the years, and maybe it's time to return them. I talk about the places, organizations like the NFA, the FTI, the Kadiwa, which we have already started to see, especially at the local level. But we have to restructure the actual department so as to be more responsive to the global situation now when it comes to food supply.
Sir, Rex po from
Yeah,
CNN.
Sir, may we know your policies on open pits and mining in general? How will you ensure that the government gets a fair share in mining project? There was a push before to increase taxes on mining, but it didn't prosper. How do you plan to deal with that? And also, how do you plan to boost revenue from weekends?
We have to view mining as a national treasure. The natural resources as a national treasure for which can help the Philippines a great deal. It is only up to us to ensure that the practices that are being that we see in the mining operations around the country are such that they're environmentally neutral. That has not necessarily been the case. I think we are all aware of some of the problems that have arisen before. But again, I cannot believe that here in the Philippines we cannot monitor and regulate the mining industry sufficiently so that we can have clean mining in the country. I'm sorry, I missed the last question.
Sir, there was a push before to increase the taxes on mining. How do you plan
To increase?
the taxes on mining, sir? But it didn't prosper. How do you plan to deal with that, sir?
Well, on the taxation, we also discussed that. It's not going. We're trying to adjust it again, not so that we just increase taxes on mining. What we would like to do is encourage that the value added to the raw ore stay in the Philippines as much as possible. Whether there should be fiscal measures in that regard is something that we haven't quite decided on, and what the levels that will be. But I think what we are trying to achieve, the desired result for all of this is, as I said, that instead of exporting raw ore, we export at least partially processed ore so that may value added that's left here in the Philippines. Yes.
We understand that rising food prices is intrinsically connected to rising oil prices.
Yeah.
What are your immediate response to spiraling oil prices?
We just, again, it has to be focused. It's not something that we talked about the listing of even just how do we do the proper listing of the indigents around the country. To make sure that it is those who are truly in need. That hits upon, that hits upon the discussion that we have about accelerating the issuance of the national ID. Because right now I think we're up to 12 million. Is that the correct number? Yeah, we're up to 12 million. Kulang na kulang pa yon. And all of these things, like the giving of the ayuda, all of these things that we are trying, we're going to digitize the bureaucracy. It all really depends upon everyone having their national ID, and a good database for that the government should have. So yes, so that's what the other thing.
Ana po from GMA News Online. Sir, on another topic lang po, meron na po ba kayong napili na next na DOH Secretary, DMA Secretary? Kasi may mga names na po na
Yes,
dumutang.
I've been seeing some some speculation. The short lists are getting shorter. Let me put it that way. If we started with 10 names, a dozen names, we are down to maybe 3 or 2 in each of those departments. But we took it really department by department. And of course, health, and not to say that the Department of Health is unimportant, but we are coming around to that, and we are. I wouldn't be surprised if we'll have an appointee or a nominee within the next week or so. I really want to get as many of those done before the inauguration.
Sir, on agri po, sir, what are your views on the rice tariffication? Some senators have expressed openness to amending it. What will be your view on it?
Well, if there's one part of the rice tariffication, it is the area wherein we reinvest, and the amount of funding that we reinvest into for our farmers and for mechanization and for post-harvest facilities, which is part of the rice tariffication. There's 10 billion that is returned to the farming community. Maybe we can have a look at that and see. Maybe that now that we are in a situation where we very much have to boost production and we very much have to support the farmers, maybe we can look at that and hopefully increase it. Meron pa namang, pag nakikita naman natin yung accounting doon sa rice tariffication, yung 10 billion na yun, kung minsan meron pang unspent. So pwede pang gamitin yun. Yes.
Senator Coco Pimentel po, sinabi po sa Senate na nanawagan siya na suspendin daw po yung excise tax.
Ano? Yung?
Excise tax po suspension.
Sa
excise tax suspension, sir, nag-suggest po si Senator Coco Pimentel sa Senate na sabi po niya, basta lang po sabihin nyo lang, magpapala daw po sila ng panukalong batas na tanggalin yung excise tax. May plano po ba?
Excise tax on oil?
On oil po.
I prefer to handle the problem on the other side of the equation and provide assistance to those who are in need. Because if you reduce the excise taxes, that does not necessarily help those who are most in need, yung talagang tinatamaan. Kasi blanket eh. So ang aking iniisip, kung sino yung mga kaagad na tinamaan, example, yung lumabas kaagad, mga transport, yung mga nagpapasada, all of that, tinamaan kaagad, i-focus natin muna sa kanila. Yung mga nangangailangan talaga. Because, you know, yung meron namang may kaya, they can afford to pay even the VAT. It's those who whose livelihoods are in danger or in danger of losing their livelihoods because of the increase in the oil, baka yun ang dapat nating doon tayo mag-focus. Yeah.
Sir, Julie Baisa from 1PH. According to VP Alexander Duterte, napag-usapan niya daw po na reviewin yung K-12 program. Sir, can we get more details? Ano yung naging instruction po?
I don't want to preempt the VP secretary. I know we did talk about that. We talked about many of the current issues. Ano lang talaga namin without getting into too much detail about what the plans are. Ang pinag-usapan lang namin basta pagandahin. There was also the question of when we start to teach English, when we move from the lingua franca to English, yung K-12, kung kailangan pa talaga yung K-12. Many of the other issues, ang aking laging pinapaalala sa kanya is yung mga teacher. Kailangan alalayan ng mga teacher, kailangan i-training ang mga teacher para magandang maging trabaho nila. Ang mga teacher naman, yan ang pinakamadaling turuan yung teacher. So I'm very confident that as long as we have a program in place to support our teachers, not only in terms of their benefits, but of course that's an important part of it, but not only just in terms of their benefits, but also in terms of other support, in terms of retraining, in terms of the supplies, the equipment. We have to do a lot to recover our very good grading before. Pagka tayo tinitingnan ng Asia, yung literacy rate, yung pagsalita ng English, pati sa science, sa math, mataas tayo noon eh. Kailangan natin balikan yan. Mahirap mag-compete kung hindi natin ayusin yung training ng mga kabataan natin.
Sir, are you open to lift the foreign ownership limit in renewable energy? Parang yun po yung isa sa mga appeal ng bumisitang Norwegian ambassador sa inyo, and other business groups also appealing for that.
Yeah, I think yan ang kasi hinihingi nila para papasok sila. But there are other issues before that. There are other issues before the ownership. At this point, marami nang pumapasok joint venture. Ang mahirap kasi sa ownership hindi. Kahit na sila may-ari, magbubukas kung sila lang ang magpapatakbo, nahihirapan silang things like ease of doing business, yung power supply, all of these things. So, and even the bidding process, kuminsan is questioned, yung mga tinatawag na guarantees, legislative guarantees and regulatory guarantees. Ibig sabihin, hindi magbabago yung batas habang ginagawa nila yung project nila. Hindi magbabago yung regulation habang ginagawa pa lang yung project nila. Yung mga ganyang klaseng bagay. Yun ang talagang hinihingi nila. The ownership is one issue, but it's not the main one. And I think if we can take care of all of that first, madali nang pumayag tayo dun sa 100% ownership.
Last question. Sir, sa transportation portfolio, may napili na kayo or possible ba na si Sen. Art mag-own over siya? And ano yung priorities natin sa transpo in the next 100 days?
Well, transport is going to be critical because hanggat maging maayos, naging problema nga, lahat ng balita, naririnig natin they call supply side problems. Not a supply side problem, there's supply, but it's the supply chain problem. That's transport. So hindi tayo makaka-recover hanggat maayos natin yung ating transportation system. So they are very high priority. As you can see, they're also living very close to the edge. Kaunti lang tumaas na naman ang crudo, hindi na magpapasada. I think now the latest increases, ang dami nang sinabi, maghahanap ng ibang trabaho dahil wala silang nakikitang para kumita. So yes, so transport is going to be an essential part because not only for passengers but also for even more for cargo. yung mga gamit, mga raw material, pati yung mga finished product, dadalhin ito sa agriculture, nagiging naapektuhan yung agriculture, food supply naapektuhan dahil sa transport. Kaya fundamental yung transport kaya kailangan ayusin. Kaya malaking problema itong nangyari na nagtataasan ang presyo ng lahat ng petroleum products. Wala naman tayong magawa. We just have to take whatever price we're getting. But hopefully, I remember in the last oil crisis, the 1973 oil crisis, napakiusapan naman natin ang mga kaibigan natin na oil-producing countries na medyo pagbigyan tayo in terms of the credit, in terms of the payment period and things like that. So baka we will pursue that again. Sa diplomacy side na naman yun.
Secretary.
I'm sorry?
Secretary of Transport. Wala pa kayong nag-meeting?
Lahat nung kausap kong mga ambassador, inumpisahan ko na. Sinasabi ba kung meron tayong pwedeng pag-usapan in terms of all of them who have supply of gas, who have supply of oil. I already opened the discussion with them dahil we have to explore nga lahat. We have to explore everyone.
Sir, clarify ko lang, secretary po.
Secretary of
Nahawak ng portfolio, sir.
Secretary of Transportation.
Nababasa mo yung pag-iisip ko. Tapos actually, I have a fairly good idea. Yun sabay-sabay will announce it agad.
Thank you.
Okay, maraming salamat. Thank you.